This is Xiao Mejia, author of Silent No More, The Girl Who Left in Flip-Flops and Found a Voice That Leads. I wrote Silent No More because I know I'm not the only one who has carried that weight. Too many women learn to shrink themselves, to put their heads down and keep going, even when their spirit is breaking. This audiobook is my offering. Not to give answers, not to tell anyone what to do, but to share hope, to share what it looked like for me to move from silence into a voice I could finally trust. My story begins in loss and hardship, but it is also full of unexpected kindness, of small victories, of stillness that showed me strength I didn't know I had. If you choose to listen, my hope is simple, that my journey might spark something in yours. A reminder that your voice matters, your story matters, and it is never too late to begin again. Preface. For most of my life, I believed silence was survival. I learned to swallow words, to hide my pain, and to keep moving forward even when my spirit was breaking. But silence is heavy. It buries not only the truth, but also the joy, the voice, and the possibility of who we are meant to become. This book is my offering, the story of how I found my way out of silence and into strength. It is not a straight path. It is a journey filled with missteps, loss, healing, and rebirth. Along the way, I discovered practices that anchor me: yoga, wellness, systems for peace, and even new ways of approaching money. Each piece became part of the larger whole, a life I could finally live on my own terms. I wrote this book now because I know I'm not alone. Too many women carry their silence quietly, believing their voice does not matter or their story is too small. I want you to know that your voice is your power. Your story is your strength, and it is never too late to reclaim both. You will find memoir here, but you will also find guidance. At the end of each section, I offer the lessons and tools I use to rebuild my life, not as rules, but as invitations. My hope is that these pages give you both recognition and direction. Recognition that you are not alone in your struggle, and direction toward your own way forward. This is not just my story, it is an opening. A reminder that no matter where you begin, there's always a new path, a path toward peace, filled with clarity, courage, and your own true voice. Xiao Mejia. About this book. At 12 years old, Xiao Mejia walked away from the only life she ever known, an arranged marriage, silence, and a future chosen for her. That first step, taken in worn flip-flops, began a decades-long journey of survival, self-discovery, and unshakable strength. In Silent No More, Xiao weaves raw, heartfelt storytelling with the exact steps and tools she used to move from invisible to empowered. More than a memoir, this book is a guide for women ready to reclaim their voice and build a life that feels like their own. Inside, you'll find an invitation to speak your truth without fear, build strength you can trust, inside and out, create a life rooted in your values and dreams. Your next chapter begins here. Some moments leave a mark that no time can fade. They live quietly in the background of every day, shaping the way you see the world. You can cross oceans, change your name, build a new life from the ground up, but they remain woven into you. This is the night that could have taken me with it, and the long road that followed to claim the life I have now. Prologue, the night that changed everything. I was 8 years old, the night my life split in two. In our small village, news traveled on the wind. That night, the wind carried something that would follow me for the rest of my life. My parents were gone, taken in a moment of violence I could not understand, committed by a man who lived among us. The adults whisper about rumors, about secrets and betrayals, but I was too young to untangle them. All I knew was that the police came and that man was gone too. I was not with my parents at the farm as I normally would have been. The night before, my father had slapped me for not getting up quickly enough, and I ended up staying with my sister and grandmother instead. My grandmother later told me she felt uneasy, so uneasy that she came to check on us twice in the middle of the night. The next morning, my sister and I went to the fields early to work. By mid-morning, the news came. Our parents were gone. We stood there in shock, the words floating in the air but not sinking in. It didn't seem real. Soon after, our farm and home were taken over by my father's brothers. My sister and I became workers under their watch. They burned everything, our family documents, clothes, even the photographs that proved we had once been a whole family. They said it was to protect the family's name, to erase the shame, but to me it erased my history. I was left with nothing I could hold in my hands. My sister and I lived under the guardianship of our grandmother and under the watchful eyes of our relatives. Most days I worked long hours, feeding the farm animals and laboring in the fields. I only saw my sister during mealtimes, and at night I shared a bed in the same room as my grandmother. My sister cooked for me, washed my clothes, while our grandmother managed us with a firm, unyielding hand. Discipline often came in the form of her walking stick, its cane striking our legs when she was displeased. After our land and property were taken over, my grandmother feared she would not have a coffin when her time came. Determined to prepare, she had one built and stored it in our living room. For years, we lived with that coffin as part of our daily reality. Our small house also sheltered 2 cows, not for meat, but as working animals to plow the fields. This was the world I grew up in, a place where death's reminder sat in the corner, and survival meant share our home with the animals that help keep the farm alive. Life was harsh. We had no electricity and no running water. An oil lamp lit our nights, and a hand pump was our only source of water. During drought seasons, even eating a full meal was a struggle. Many nights our dinner came from vegetable scraps taken from our uncle's house, or a small bowl of plain noodles with nothing else in it. Sometimes we mixed pumpkin squash with flour to make bread, or added cornmeal to make mantu. Most of the year, our meals were made from what we could grow in the backyard: sweet potatoes, corn, green beans. Meat was a rare luxury, save for New Year's. All the farmland was used to grow crops to pay taxes, and only whatever was left over would see us through the long, cold winter. Growing up, I was sick often. My body was often host to tapeworms, and ear infections came and went like unwelcome guests. The lack of nutrition left me weak, and vitamin deficiencies became a quiet, constant shadow over my childhood. During harvest season, we worked in the sweltering heat until the world blurred, my nose bleeding from exhaustion and the relentless sun. For years, I carried that loss like a stone lodged deep in my chest. Some nights it felt so heavy I couldn't draw a full breath. The nightmares would come without warning, pulling me back to that night, my own voice echoing in the dark as I cried and screamed. Faces blur with time, one so familiar slipped further away. In my dreams, the only thing sharp and clear were the photographs, edges curling in the flames. Only a few people in my life have ever heard this story. Speaking it aloud has always felt like opening a locked box inside me. But without it, the rest of my story doesn't make sense. The girl who left home in flip-flops. The woman who built a new life from nothing. She began here in the ash of that night. Part 1, My Journey. Chapter 1, The Teenage Runaway Introduction. Have you ever felt like you were born into a life that wasn't yours? Like the choices that mattered most were made for you, long before you knew what you wanted? I know that feeling. It's a silence that settles deep in your bones. When I was a young teen, I was promised a marriage I never asked for. After my parents passed away, my sister and I were left at the mercy of relatives, and our fate was handed over as if our lives were just pieces in someone else's plan. We were both arranged to marry into the same family, 2 brothers, both with mental disabilities. Leaving wasn't a plan, it was survival. There was no one coming to save me, and I couldn't afford to wait for a rescue that would never come. And in that silence, I learned the lesson that would define my life. You don't need anyone's permission to change it. I left the only home I had ever known at 12 years old. I had nothing, just the clothes on my back and a pair of flip-flops I called shoes. I didn't know if I was walking towards something better or just away from the pain. Sometimes strength looks like that, leaving in flip-flops, carrying nothing but a quiet, desperate hope. That moment, that first act of choosing the unknown over the unlivable, set me on a long, winding road of reinvention. It taught me that circumstance is not identity. We are allowed to outgrow the stories that others write for us. This book is for every woman who has ever felt trapped by a life, a body, or a story that feels too small. It's for the woman who is ready to choose something different, even if she's scared. It's for the woman who is ready to find her own strength. This is not a story about having it all figured out. It's a story about rebuilding over and over again. It's a journey that asks for patience, for truth, and for the courage to start over. It won't always be easy, but it will be yours. And in that, there is a kind of freedom no one else can give you. Let's begin. Chapter 2, The Girl Who Stayed Silent. I learned to be silent in the heat of a tiny bun shop, a world of steam so thick you could forget the sky existed. I was a young teen, living in a room with 5 other girls, our days marked by the smell of flour and the rhythm of shaping dough, 1 bun in each hand. My first paycheck was 50 yen, less than $7, but it was mine. I had earned it. I knew exactly what I wanted. A thick winter jacket, something warm and good that wasn't a hand-me-down. Before I could buy it, the money was stolen from my pouch. I walked back to the shop with tears rolling down my face, mourning the loss of something that was supposed to be my own. My boss saw me, and I still remember this. She gave me her son's shoes and her daughter's jacket. Just like that. No big words, just kindness. I went back to work. I stayed quiet. Later that year, just before the Chinese New Year, I was in the public bathhouse when a pot of boiling water overturned, and I fell straight into it. The pain was immediate, searing. 3rd-degree burns covered my skin, but I didn't tell anyone. I went home to my grandmother for the holiday, determined to hide it. I moved carefully. I flinched when I sat down. I hoped no one would see. I thought if I didn't say anything, I could keep going. My grandmother, of course, knew something was wrong. The moment she saw the burns, she screamed, then broke down crying. My skin eventually recovered. But that pattern, the instinct to keep my pain hidden, to suffer quietly, took years to even notice and longer still to heal. I share this story because that silence is the language so many mothers speak fluently. We learn to endure. We carry our pain, the physical ache of a body that has been stretched and broken and rebuilt, the emotional weight of a life that revolves around everyone else, and we don't say a word, We think it's a form of strength, but silence doesn't protect us. It just holds the pain in deeper. The journey back to your own strength doesn't start with a punishing workout. It starts with breaking that silence. It begins with the first gentle act of listening to your body and speaking up for what it needs. It starts with your breath. The first word, your breath. Think of this practice not as exercise you have to get right, but as a quiet conversation with the part of yourself you haven't spoken to in a long time. It's a moment to offer yourself the kindness you so freely give to others. When you're ready, find a safe, quiet space where you can lie down and feel supported by the floor beneath you. Finding your space, lie comfortably on your back. You can bend your knees with your feet flat on the floor, or you can stretch your legs out long if that feels better. There is no right or wrong here, only what feels restful for you. Gently place one hand on your heart and the other on your lower belly. This is just a soft point of contact, a way of saying, I am here. If you like, you can close your eyes. A gentle invitation. First, the belly. Through your nose, gently invite the breath deep down into your body. Imagine it traveling all the way to the hand on your belly, allowing it to rise softly. Don't force it, just allow. Next, the ribs. As you continue to breathe in, let that same breath widen your rib cage. You might feel your ribs expand into the sides of your body, a gentle, quiet opening. Finally, the heart. Let the very top of your inhale fill the space beneath the hand on your heart. The release exhale slowly, without any rush. Imagine you are letting go of a long-held sigh. Feel your chest soften, your ribs gently draw in, and your belly release. That is one complete, compassionate breath. Stay here for as long as it feels nourishing. Maybe for 5 cycles, maybe more. If your mind wanders, that's okay. It's what minds do. Just gently guide your attention back to the simple, profound feeling of your own breath. This is the first act of coming home to yourself. From survival to sisterhood. After leaving the bun shop, I thought life might get easier. It didn't. I spent the rest of my teenage years raising myself. There was no parent to guide me, no one to make sure I was safe, fed, or cared for. I made my own decisions about where to live and how to earn enough to keep a roof over my head. I learned to manage my money carefully, knowing every one mattered. Most nights I came home to small rented rooms I paid for myself, places that felt temporary because they were. I cooked quick, simple meals, washed my own clothes by hand, and went to work no matter how tired or sick I felt. I learned to protect myself on the streets, to read people's moods, and to stay alert for danger. I moved from job to job in restaurants across China, each one teaching me a different kind of survival. At 15, I took my second job, this time through a distant family connection. Too young to face customers, I worked in the back, folding dumplings, scrubbing dishes, cooking in steam so thick I forgot what the sky looked like. We lived above the kitchen on the second floor, 6 girls crammed into one room. We woke every day at 5 a.m. to the sound of a stick slapping the floor. If you didn't get up when called, that stick found you. We worked until past 11 p.m. No breaks, hands moving until they cracked. After a full day in the back, we still had to clean the tables, sweep the floors, and scrub the bathrooms. The boss would inspect dishes with a white paper towel. If even one wasn't clean enough, I had to rewash every single one. For a year of labor, we earned 1,001 renminbi, about $11.57 per month in today's value. And if any dish broke, it came out of our pay. Even the bathroom wasn't for us. Only for customers, they said. So we walked 3 blocks down an alley to a public toilet. In the rain, cold and dark. I was so afraid to go out at night that I stopped drinking water after 2 p.m. just to avoid needing to go. There was no warmth, no rest, just silence. Yet in that silence, we became sisters. We whispered dreams we didn't dare speak aloud and laughed quietly in corners between chores. Even when everything else is taken, human connection survives. Eventually I left, but my friend stayed. When I returned once to see her, the boss chased me down 5 blocks, yelling like I'd stolen something, not money, but possibility. She feared that if I spoke to my friend, she'd leave too. I never saw her again. The waitress years. The following year, at 16, I became a waitress. I had learned how to smile for customers, to speak just enough to make them feel welcome. My confidence grew, but my circumstances had not. That year, my grandmother fell sick. I asked my boss for time to visit her. He refused. Not only that, he robbed me. He took my jewelry, my money, and my phone, leaving me with nothing. No way to call home, no way to get there. For the first time, I told the truth to a stranger. A customer listened. He brought me to a hostel to rest, then returned the next day with food and money for a ticket home. That act of kindness, simple, quiet, was the second time I had felt warmth from another human being. I left the restaurant after that, along with 2 other girls. I never went back. What these years taught me. These years taught me that child labor still exists, and for many girls, work is survival, not opportunity. Pain, fear, and exhaustion were daily realities. Sisterhood became our strength. I learned that those in power often fear the smallest signs of hope. Confidence alone isn't enough. Safety and freedom are what protect you. And I learned that even the smallest act of care can carry someone back to hope. Chapter 3, From Survival to Self-Respect. I used to think living my village meant I had escaped the life waiting for me. But tradition lingers. It doesn't ask for permission. After my sister married, everyone assumed I'd follow. That's how it goes back home. Girls don't choose. You marry who you're told. You stay quiet. Even after I left, I could still feel that expectation pressing on me. But deep down, I wanted more than the life I was dealt. Where I come from, choosing your own path is rare. I was one of the few who did, and even though it didn't feel brave at the time, it was the beginning of my voice. I married a Chinese student and immigrated to the U.S. in 2001. I believed it was my new beginning, the life I dreamed of. But freedom didn't meet me at the border. I couldn't speak English. There was no school, no study, just 60-hour weeks in a restaurant, unable to even enjoy the money I earned. At first, my job was simple: cleaning tables, bagging food, and taking out trash. Without English, I couldn't do much more. Work was hard, and life felt lonely. The car I drove back and forth was so old that every time I turned the key, the smell of gasoline filled the air. I was tired and alone, without anyone to lean on. But little by little, things began to shift. I listened closely to the sound around me, the way customers ordered, the way dishes were called out in the kitchen. Soon I was brave enough to answer the phone, repeating words I barely understood. The manager noticed my effort. She became my first teacher. Patiently, she went through the names of vegetables, one by one, teaching me their English words. She even showed me how to count coins and bills, turning each small lesson into a gift. The hours were long and the pay was little, but the kindness of the people made the restaurant feel like a second home. In that noisy kitchen and crowded dining room, I began to find connection. And with each word I learned, I felt a small piece of belonging take root inside me. Still, belonging at work didn't erase the reality at home. One night, after an argument, I walked into the dark with no plan, just a deep desire to get away. One night, after an argument, I walked into the dark with no plan, just a deep desire to get away. A woman pulled over on the highway. We didn't speak the same language, but she saw my fear and brought me to a gas station where she called the police to help me get home. I never saw her again, but I never forgot her kindness. I was in a new country, but still trapped, cut off, dependent, alone. Eventually, the relationship ended, and I had to leave everything I had built. Over and over, I found myself in the same patterns. Different place, new person, same job. The fear was deep. Staying silent was what I knew. That's what fear does. It keeps you in what you know, even when it hurts. Then one day, a friend asked me, "Xiao, what's your biggest dream? Did you come to America just to drive a car and work for $6 an hour?" That question cracked something open because I had stopped dreaming. I had stopped asking for more. For the first time in years, I let myself wonder, could I go back to school? Could I leave this small town and build something of my own? Maybe starting over wasn't failure. Maybe it was the truest thing I could do. So I left. Louisville became a chapter I'm no longer embarrassed to mention. To every soul who showed up with kindness, thank you. Your presence became part of my healing. Florida taught me how to breathe. After years of chasing, modeling, school, business, I finally slowed down, and in the stillness, I found my voice. I share this not because it's all tied up in a bow, but because my daughter is watching. She's learning what it means to have boundaries, to understand love that doesn't hurt, to grow into her voice fully and freely. I want her to see strength that's honest, healing that's real, a mother who models self-respect. And if things feel a little stuck right now, I get it. I've been there in that quiet, heavy place where nothing feels clear. Take this with you and thank me later. Discomfort isn't a sign you're broken. It's often your truth, finally rising up. It's not about confidence. Forget that. What really matters is clarity. One honest question can shift everything. You haven't missed your path. There's nothing to fix. I'm strong in my core and still figuring it out as I go. And honestly, that's enough. You can break cycles, even the ones that feel generational. Healing isn't a straight line. Freedom won't always feel like freedom at first. And strength, it's often quiet, even scared and still valid. Move with me. Find your rhythm. Come join me at Xiao Wellness. Chapter 4, Love and Relationships. 3 Truths. Silence doesn't just live in families or workplaces. It follows you into love. I carried it into every relationship, mistaking endurance for devotion and control for care. I thought if I worked harder, stayed quieter, or gave more of myself, it would finally feel like love. Instead, each time I shrank, I lost a little more of who I was. I found myself on the side of the highway, lost in darkness after a heavy argument. A stranger pulled over, giving me the protection I should have received from the one who claimed to love me. That night planted a truth I would only later find the words for. Love that hurt is not love. Sometimes protection comes from strangers when it should have come from home. It took me years to see what I wish I had known sooner. If you're wondering about your own relationship, sit with these questions. Do your boundaries matter here? If not, can this truly be love? Do you feel free to use your voice, or is it silenced? Are you trusted with your own money, or is it taken and controlled? Does jealousy hold you close, or does it keep you trapped? When abandonment leaves you begging for scraps of attention, can that ever be love? Without trust, what are you really holding? Love or only a fantasy? A letter for the woman who believes hurt is love. I want to speak to the woman who stays quiet, the one who tells herself she deserves the hurt, or that this is what love is supposed to be. I know how heavy that silence feels. I've carried it too. I once believed love meant endurance. I thought staying, giving more, and enduring longer would finally make it love. But here's the truth I wish someone had whispered to me sooner. Real love does not shrink you. It does not hit you, control you, or make you feel invisible. Real love is not built on fear. It is built on trust, respect, and care. The only loves I now know to be unconditional are the ones that never ask me to disappear. The love I give myself and the love I give my daughter. Those loves anchor me. And I promise you this, when you begin to choose yourself, even in small ways, you will discover that love was never supposed to hurt. There is nothing broken in you, nothing worthless. What is true is this: you are worthy of peace, dignity, and love that lets you breathe. And even if you cannot believe that yet, I will hold that truth for you until you can. What real love is true love is not about possession. It is about freedom. Love doesn't leave you begging. It shows up steady and present. Love doesn't cross your boundaries. It honors them, and you only need to say it once. Love encourages your voice because it wants to hear what you have to say. Your voice matters. Love shows up as encouragement, and even if you are not at the same level, it never makes you feel small or unseen. Love doesn't demand control. It offers trust and reflects that trust back to you. Closing reflection. Love without trust is only fantasy. Love without respect is control. Love without safety is harm. The only love worth building on is the one that honors your boundaries, your freedom, and your voice. And if you forget that truth, remember this: the love you give yourself is unconditional, and the love you give as a mother is unconditional. Those are your anchors. Everything else must be built on respect, or it is not love at all. Chapter 5. The Breaking Point. Leaving Louisville wasn't just about moving to a different place. It was about breaking the patterns that had followed me from China to America. The silence, the fear of dreaming, the habit of making myself small. Even after all the jobs I'd worked as a teenager, after surviving on my own, I still found myself repeating the same cycles. I could walk away from one life, but if I didn't face the patterns inside me, I would simply build the same life somewhere else. After I left the bun shop years earlier, I thought I had escaped. But I had learned the hard way that you can leave a place and still find yourself trapped in the same old patterns. I'd come to America for a new beginning, but freedom didn't meet me at the border. I was in a new relationship, in a new country, but I was still silent. One night after an argument, I walked out into the dark and ended up on the side of a highway. A woman pulled over. We didn't speak the same language, but she saw my fear and helped me get home for the night. After that relationship ended, I was homeless. During that uncertain time, my ex-husband and his family opened their home to me, and for their kindness, I am incredibly grateful. We were trying to build a life together, and on the surface, it was safe. But something inside me kept whispering a question I couldn't ignore. Is this all there is to life? It wasn't the first time I had left everything behind. In my first years in America, after my marriage to the Chinese student ended, I walked away from the little I had, leaving with nothing but myself. Years later, with my ex-husband, it happened again. We had bought a home just 4 months earlier, and I left with nothing but myself once more. It was then that a friend asked me a question that cut through all the noise. Zhao, what's your biggest dream? Did you come to America just to drive a car and work for $6 an hour? That was the breaking point. Hearing that question, I knew I couldn't depend on anyone else for my safety or my happiness. I had to find my own way. I made the decision that would change everything. I was leaving the life I knew and moving to Florida to start over on my own terms. Your first classroom, the kitchen. The kitchen can feel like the most overwhelming room in the house, a place of endless tasks and decisions. We're not going to try to conquer it all at once. We're going to learn one skill at a time, starting with the mindset that changes everything. Your first lesson, the real food philosophy. Before we chop a single vegetable, let's get one thing clear. Eating well is not about restriction, guilt, or complicated rules. The philosophy that will fuel your strength is simple. Eat real food. What is real food? It's food that is as close to its natural state as possible. It's the vibrant, life-giving foods you'll find in my grocery guide, things that grew in the ground, on a tree, or lived a healthy life. This isn't about being perfect. It's about making the simple, powerful choice to nourish your body with things that will give you energy, not take it away. Your first project, the intentional grocery trip. Your first project is to transform your grocery trip from a chaotic chore into a calm, intentional act of self-care. This is a skill, and it gets easier with practice. Shop the perimeter. The outer edges of the grocery store are where the real food lives. Fresh produce, meat, fish, and dairy. Spend most of your time here. Have a plan. A list is not a restriction. It's a tool that frees you from decision fatigue. Use the categories from the guide below to build your list each week. Build your real food kitchen. Focus on stocking your kitchen with versatile, real food staples from these core categories. Here are some of the essentials from my Total Life System grocery guide to get you started. Protein, organic free-range eggs, wild-caught salmon, free-range chicken, non-GMO firm tofu, vegetables, leafy greens like kale and spinach, broccoli, bell peppers, onions, carrots, and sweet potatoes, fruits, berries, apples, bananas, avocados, lemons, and limes, whole grains, brown rice, steel-cut oats, quinoa, black wild rice, healthy fats, nuts and seeds, olive oil, avocados, almonds, walnuts, chia seeds, and flax seeds. Your next skill, the 15-minute component, prep. The secret to easy, healthy meal isn't spending your entire Sunday cooking. It's spending just 15 to 20 minutes prepping components that you can use all week. After your grocery trip, try this simple routine. Cook one grain. Put on a pot of brown rice or quinoa. Wash and chop one vegetable. Wash and chop a head of broccoli or a few bell peppers. Cook one simple protein. Hard boil half a dozen eggs or bake a few chicken breasts with salt and pepper. That's it. Now you have building blocks for a week of healthy eating. You haven't made a single meal, but you've made every meal easier. You just learned 3 new skills. You built a system. This is the first taste of real confidence. This is momentum. Chapter 6, A New Beginning in Florida. When I made the decision to leave, I didn't just close a chapter, I stepped into the unknown. I had walked away before, but this time felt different. Florida wasn't just another escape. It was a chance to see if I could build, not just survive. There's an old Chinese parable about a frog who lived his entire life at the bottom of a well. He would look up and see a small round patch of blue and believe with all his heart that he was seeing the entire sky. One day, a sea turtle came by and told him about the ocean, a world of endless water and a horizon so wide the frog couldn't even imagine it. But the frog couldn't believe him. He had never seen anything beyond the dot of sky he knew. For a long time, I was that frog. The life I knew was my well, and I couldn't see beyond its walls. But the decision to move to Florida was my first moment of believing in the ocean. The reality of it, however, was pure fear. I was so scared that I left with nothing, walking away from a home I had just bought 4 months earlier. I left without even my own banking account. I just took myself. I arrived with nothing but enough gas money to get to Florida and a deep, quiet resolve to build a life that was truly my own. A new beginning doesn't just happen. You build it brick by brick, especially when you're starting from zero. By day, I worked as a model to survive. By night, I was a student, determined to break down the wall of silence that had been my shield for so long. I spent hours in the local library, watching TV with the subtitles on, my notebook filling with the strange and beautiful sounds of a new language, all of it aimed at one goal: college. Eventually, I put myself through school, paying for every class with the money I earned. I did it all in my second language. That journey, from arriving with nothing to earning a college degree on my own terms, taught me the most powerful lesson of my life. I can figure things out. I know what it's like to live under that dot in the sky, to mistake it for the whole world. But what I've learned is this: we get to look beyond. We get to choose more. Strength isn't just about a single act of escape. It's about the small, consistent work you do every day to build a life bigger than the one you were shown. Chapter 7: The Health Crisis and a New Purpose. After I graduated from college with a degree in art, I had the language and the freedom I had worked so hard for, but I felt completely lost. I was burnt out from modeling, and the fashion industry, with its wasteful nature, just didn't fit the person I was becoming. I had a hard time finding my place in the real world, and no longer knew how to ease out of the work that had defined my survival for so long. It was in that quiet, uncertain space that I began to notice my body's whispers more clearly. At first, I thought I was just tired, but it was deeper than that. Constant bloating, sluggish digestion, and a heaviness I couldn't explain. My body was speaking, and I had to learn how to listen. That feeling was too powerful to keep to myself. I knew I had to share it. I trained at the Lotus Pond in Tampa, earning 2 certifications, one in Hatha Yoga and one in Restorative Yoga, and officially became a yoga teacher. Guiding others through movement felt like offering them a map back to themselves, just as I had been given. But even as I was helping others find stillness and strength, my own body was sending distress signals. I was constantly tired, bloated, and my digestion was a mess. For years, I had been eating on autopilot, disconnected from how my food was affecting me. There was a growing gap between the mindful life I was teaching and the reality I was living in my own body. The health crisis became my final breaking point. I realized that the peace I had found in yoga wasn't enough if I didn't feel well from the inside out. All the external success in the world meant nothing if I wasn't at home in my own body. For me, listening to my body has shown up in unexpected ways, even in what I wear. I stopped wearing a bra 5 years ago, and I've never looked back. At first, it was just about comfort, a small act. But over time, it became a full-body freedom shift, a way of saying, I don't need to brace myself to be myself. For so long, I thought a bra was essential, part of being put together, professional, respectable, feminine. I put one on automatically, without ever asking if it still made sense for me. But the truth, I was uncomfortable every single day. Straps digging into my shoulders, underwire pressing into my ribs. By the end of the day, I could barely stand it. And when I finally took it off and exhaled, I realized how much tension I'd been carrying without even noticing it. I started to wonder, what if comfort didn't have to wait until the end of the day? Could I build my wardrobe around feeling free without giving up support? It began with small, steady shifts. First, I swapped out my bras for firm-fitting tanks and yoga bras with pads that stayed in place without shifting. Then I started layering with intention. Shirts with chest pockets to soften the shape, stripes and patterns that naturally draw the eye, graphic tees that let me express myself while feeling playful and covered. My fastest way to get dressed? A jacket or hoodie. Simple layers for comfort and coverage without overthinking it. And fabrics became just as important. Soft, breathable pieces that draped instead of clung. As I simplified my wardrobe, I realized something deeper. I was still me, strong, capable, and most importantly, comfortable in my own skin. That same awareness, the choice to listen to my body, is what led me to my next step. I knew I had to make a change in how I fueled myself. I began returning to the whole food eating I'd grown up with. Simple, nourishing, and unprocessed. I wanted to understand food as deeply as I had come to understand movement. That led me to nutrition school, where I became a certified health coach. What began as a desperate search to heal myself became something bigger, a mission to help others reclaim their energy, their health, and their connection to their bodies. The knowledge I gained taught me that true wellness isn't a trend. It's a way of life rooted in listening to your body and honoring what it needs. That education gave me the tools to rebuild my health, and with it came a purpose that reached far beyond myself. Chapter 8. The day I learned to breathe again before. It was in that quiet, uncertain space that I found yoga. At first, it was just a practice for myself, a way to reconnect with my own body, to quiet the noise, and to ease the feeling of being adrift. On the mat, I discovered a new kind of peace, one that wasn't about achievement, but about presence. After college, I carried the degree I once believed would open every door, and the language I pieced together one word at a time. On paper, I had achieved freedom, but inside I felt empty. Modeling had burned me out. The industry's wastefulness no longer matched who I was becoming. Without it, I didn't know where I belonged. My days blurred with confusion. My nights felt heavy with doubt. I had broken free on the outside, but inside I was still lost. That was when I found my way to the Lotus Pond in Tampa. It was a Wednesday evening in the middle of a week, like so many others, and I almost didn't go. But something in me was desperate for relief, even if I couldn't name it yet. The class was led by Val Spies, a teacher whose presence softened the room before she even spoke. Her voice carried both strength and tenderness, guiding us through shapes that felt foreign to my body. For the first time in years, I wasn't performing. I wasn't striving or surviving. I was simply breathing. Each week I returned, my worn flip-flops carrying me into that quiet sanctuary. Bit by bit, the fog inside me began to lift. Where there had been tension, I felt space. Where there had been noise, I felt quiet. The shifts were subtle, but they were steady, like water smoothing stone. Then came a moment of clarity I couldn't ignore. I wanted to share this peace. Yoga had given me a map back to myself, and I couldn't keep that map hidden. So I signed up for teacher training at the Lotus Pond. I studied Hatha Yoga and Restorative Yoga, earned my certifications, and stepped into a role I had never imagined for myself: teacher. Guiding others wasn't about perfect poses or polished studios. It was about offering them what had saved me, a space to come home to themselves. That first evening class in Tampa didn't just change my week. It gave me a way forward, a rhythm I could trust, and a purpose I hadn't known was waiting for me. And with it came a purpose that reached far beyond myself. Chapter 9, Passing Down Your Roots. After my daughter and I found our rhythm in daily life, I realized that nourishing her was about more than just the food on her plate. I had fed her body, but I also had a deep desire to feed her spirit, to give her the parts of myself that couldn't be measured in vitamins or minerals. I wanted to give her the gift of her heritage. In the chaos of 2020, when the world shut down, I found a quiet, uncertain space and a small window of opportunity. I made the decision to teach my daughter Chinese. She was only 3. I didn't have a plan or a roadmap to tell me I was doing it right. But I knew one thing for sure. If I didn't try, it would be the biggest regret of my life. So we began slowly and patiently. We started with the basics, the Chinese alphabet, then strokes, then characters. Every morning after breakfast, we sat down and copied 2 full pages together. Before dinner, she'd practice her strokes again. At bedtime, we read 2 Chinese storybooks every single night. No matter what, it became our rhythm. What feels repetitive to a parent is actually reassuring to a child. Repetition doesn't just build knowledge, it builds confidence. Learning doesn't need to be a grand event. It just needs to be steady. By the end of that year, she was ready. At 4 years old, she joined a Chinese weekend school. Now she's in 2nd grade, speaking, writing, and owning her language. She has even traveled to China, met her relatives, and walked the streets her ancestors once walked. I didn't just teach her a language. I gave her a way back to where she comes from. Because teaching your child your native tongue isn't just about words. It's an invitation. It's a quiet bridge between generations, a way of remembering who they are. A child grows through what you offer daily: patience, structure, and quiet encouragement. That becomes the foundation they stand on. And in teaching her, I was also teaching myself to remember where I came from, to honor the language I had once been so eager to leave behind, and to see it now as a gift. The bridge I was building for her was also one I had been crossing all along. And once we had built our language together, it was only natural to bring that same connection into the kitchen. Chapter 10, Sharing Your Strength. The kitchen had always been my own place of survival, but now it became our shared classroom. What if your child's favorite memories didn't come from a screen, but from the kitchen standing next to you? For a long time, the kitchen was my classroom for survival, where I learned to take care of myself and build my own confidence one meal at a time. But once I felt strong in that space, it began to transform. The room was less about my own healing and more about connection. It evolved into a place where I could share my strength. I started teaching my daughter to cook when she was 5 years old. It began simply. I'd pull a stool up to the counter and we'd make a game of washing vegetables, her small hands rinsing them under the water as she lined them up like colorful soldiers. It was never about perfection. It was always about learning together. Soon she was helping me cut vegetables with a kid-safe knife, her brow furrowed in concentration. She learned to set the table, to help write our grocery list, and to pick out ingredients at the store. By the time she was in second grade, she understood how certain foods helped her body grow strong and stay focused. She even started coming up with her own recipes. This wasn't a chore, it was one of our favorite parts of the day. When kids help prepare their food, they learn more than just a recipe. They learn where food comes from. They build patience, confidence, and a deep, intuitive connection to their own health that will stay with them for life. Teaching your child to cook is one of the greatest gifts you can give them. It's not just about nutrition, it's about creating a beautiful rhythm you'll both carry forever. Inviting your child into the kitchen, make it a game, not a task. Instead of a formal lesson, just invite them in. Say, "Can you be my helper and wash these carrots?" Or, "I need a very important person to stir this for me." Turn on some music you both love to dance to. The goal is connection, not a perfect plate. Give them ownership. Let them have a say. Ask, "Should we have broccoli or green beans tonight?" When kids feel like they have a choice, they are much more likely to eat and enjoy the food. Give them their own small bowl for mixing or their own kid-safe knife. It makes them feel capable and important. Talk about growing food. You don't need a science lesson, just simple, powerful connections. This broccoli helps our bodies grow strong. The good fats in this avocado give us energy to play. These carrots help our eyes see everything on our next adventure. A few tools to make it fun. A personal blender for smoothies they can build themselves. Kid-friendly tool like beginner knives and peelers. A large mixing bowl perfect for little hands to wash green or toss a salad. Divided lunch boxes to teach balance and variety as they help pack their own lunch. This isn't about raising a gourmet chef. It's about raising a child who feels confident, connected, and empowered to take care of themselves for life. It's about sharing your strength in one of the most loving ways possible. Chapter 11, Planting New Roots. After spending so many hours with my daughter in the kitchen, cooking, chopping, and creating meals together, it felt only natural to take one more step back to the source, the soil. I wanted her to see not just how food is prepared, but where it truly begins. For years, my life was about building a new language, a new career, a new sense of self. But after the hustle, a new longing emerged, a desire for stillness, for a deeper connection to the earth. That journey for me began in the soil. Before we moved to our current home, I was living the full garden dream. We turned our entire lawn into a garden. Zero grass, just food and flowers. It was beautiful, but honestly, it was a lot of work. I spent hours every week maintaining it. That space demanded constant energy. Eventually, life shifted, and so did our home. After moving to a smaller house, I had way less space to grow. But I wasn't ready to give up on homegrown food, so I had to get creative. I started growing in containers in small raised beds, and that's when I discovered something important. You don't need a big backyard to grow real food. You just need a smart plan. My journey with gardening in Florida has been one of trial and error. In the beginning, I tried to grow everything I saw in the supermarket. Spinach, big tomatoes, all of it. But almost everything I planted died. That's when I learned the most important lesson. Florida doesn't work like that. The key is simple. Grow what grows. Work with nature, not against it. I learned this the hard way. I once filled my yard with all kinds of fruit trees, raspberries, grapes, even apples. Almost all of them died. Meanwhile, the papaya and squash plants that popped up on their own from my compost pile were thriving. That's when it finally clicked. Now my garden is more manageable but still incredibly productive. I focus on low-maintenance, Florida-friendly plants that thrive in the heat and humidity. It's a simpler, more grounding way to live. Your own small garden work smarter, not harder. The vegetables we see in the grocery store, like lettuce and broccoli, are often grown in cooler climates. Trying to grow them in a Florida summer is a battle. Instead, choose resilient crops that are meant to thrive here, like longevity spinach, moringa, lemongrass, and sweet potatoes. Use containers. Wisely, you can grow leafy greens, herbs, and even dwarf fruit trees in pots. Just make sure they have good drainage and at least 4 to 6 hours of direct sun each day. Start small. Don't try to grow everything at once. Start with a few plants you know you'll actually eat. Plant one herb, one grain. Let it nourish your body and your spirit. This isn't just about food, it's about connection. It's about strength, simplicity, and a sustainable wellness that is rooted in the earth. Chapter 12, Reclaiming Your Money, Reclaiming Your Voice. What if reclaiming your voice started with reclaiming your money? Tending a garden taught me more than how to grow food. It reminded me that real growth takes patience, care, and ownership. You choose what to plant, you nurture it, and you protect it from anything that would take it away. The same is true for our financial lives. If you don't claim your space and protect what you've built, someone else will decide what grows there. I didn't grow up with much, and for a long time, I believed that meant I wasn't worth much. Losing my parents didn't just take away love and stability. It also left me with no financial foundation. I didn't see anyone saving, investing, or planning for the future. I learned early to survive, not to build. That belief followed me into adulthood, shaping how I handled and sometimes gave away my security. When life got hard, I didn't just walk away from relationships. I walked away from money, shelter, and stability. I didn't know how to hold what belonged to me without guilt or fear. I had to learn the hard way that money is part of your voice. If you don't own your finances, you don't own your choices. Leaving with nothing again and again taught me that women should never give away their financial independence. Security is not selfish, and independence is not optional. These are the 3 truths I now live by. Always keep money in your own name. Hold your financial future like it's sacred, because it is. Use money to create value for yourself and others. These aren't about greed. They're about security, dignity, and self-respect. And now I'm passing that lesson forward to my daughter and to you, so you can learn early what I had to learn late. The other day, she asked where money comes from. Instead of a lecture, we started a pretend game. She owned a big horse business. The horse was her asset. The money from rides was her income. The cost of horse food was her expense. In that one game, she saw the whole picture. Now we use her personal money tracker together, logging her income and expenses. Seeing her face light up as she realizes she is already building something of her own. That is everything. This is what it means to reclaim your power. It's about taking your financial literacy seriously and putting your future in your own hands. Real wealth doesn't shout. It whispers. It shows up as peace, as clarity, and as the freedom to make decisions without fear. And when you treat money as an act of self-respect, everything changes. Just like our finances, Our physical space needs care, boundaries, and intentional choices. And for me, the next step in reclaiming my life wasn't about money at all. It was about my home. My daughter was only 1 year old when we made the decision. On paper, we had made it. We had the big house I once thought would mean I'd finally arrived. But the satisfaction I had imagined never came. Instead, the house began to cost us our peace. Things broke faster than I could fix them. The property was too big for me to maintain, and we were living paycheck to paycheck with no real progress on our debt snowball. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I didn't need 4 bathrooms for our small family. The rooms were full of things, yet I still felt empty. The truth was, the house cost more than I had ever realized. More than money, it was costing me time, energy, and joy. Selling that house wasn't just about reducing expenses. It was about choosing peace over pressure. It was about making space, physically and emotionally, for the life I actually wanted to live. This is the heart of Xiao Wellness. Making choices that free your energy, your time, and your mind so you can focus on what truly matters. Money, like health, is a form of strength, and when you protect it, you protect your ability to live on your own terms. Chapter 13. My money guru. When I first began learning about the stock market, I felt the same overwhelm I had once felt as a young girl trying to survive on my own. It was a language no one had ever taught me, a place where mistakes felt costly and fear was always waiting. So I did what I have always done. I taught myself. Just as I once pieced together English word by word, I pieced together money lesson by lesson. I studied, I practiced, and I wrote down every rule I wanted to live by. Not someone else's rules, but mine. Out of that notebook grew something I now call my money guru. It is not a person, it is a system, a working partner that sits beside me every time I make a decision with money. My money guru is built on rules that cannot be broken, rules that protect me when greed whispers or when fear tries to push me into panic. Rules that remind me of what I stand for. Protect your downside. Only trade when the conditions are right, and never put your peace at risk for the sake of profit. Through options trading, specifically cash-secured puts and covered calls, I found a way to earn steady income without gambling or guessing. But more than that, I found a way to trust myself, because every time I sit down with my money guru, I am accountable to my own wisdom. And this is what I want every woman to know. You can create a system that becomes your ally. You don't need to wait for someone else to manage your money or tell you what you're worth. You can build your own guardrails, your own philosophy, and let that guide you forward. For me, the money guru is more than a financial tool. It is a reflection of my voice, calm, steady, disciplined. A quiet partner who reminds me that money, like wellness, grows best when it is consistent, intentional, and rooted in respect for yourself. The money guru philosophy. My money guru isn't a person. It's a set of rules I created to protect me from my own fear, to hold me accountable, and to remind me that wealth is built with discipline, not luck. Here is the philosophy I live by. Know your circle of competence. Trade and invest only in what you understand. Choose quality first. Never build your life on junk. Demand a margin of safety. Enter only when the price is right, not when emotion pushes you. System over emotion. My rules lead, not my fear or excitement. Keep a logbook. Every trade is a teacher. Think like an owner. Patience is power. Stay detached. Don't fall in love with any stock. Fall in love with the process. Be a perpetual student. The market, like life, will always have more to teach. These principles are bigger than finance. They're about how to live, with patience, with clarity, with rhythm. My money guru sits beside me like a partner. It keeps me calm, reminds me of my values, and shows me that wealth isn't just about numbers. It's about building a life that lets you sleep well at night. Chapter 14. My money tree. I once believed investing was only for experts, men in suits, people with insider knowledge, or families who grew up talking money at the dinner table. I had none of that. What I did have was what I've always relied on: curiosity, discipline, and a notebook. In the beginning, I thought I could outsmart the market, buy low, sell high, and collect quick wins. For a while, it worked. Then came the downturn, and I sold shares I should have held. In a single season, $35,000 disappeared. But the deeper wound wasn't the money. It was the collapse of trust in myself. After that loss, I froze. For months, even years, I avoided making new decisions. Avoidance felt safer than risking another mistake. But silence doesn't build strength. It only feeds fear. Eventually, I realized that if I wanted a different future, I needed a different approach. This time, I returned to my notebooks. I studied, tracked, and listened. I asked questions that felt too simple to say out loud. And slowly, I built a philosophy that gave me peace instead of panic. I began to see money not as a gamble, but as something alive, something that could grow if I treated it with patience. That's when I created what I now call my money tree. The rule is simple. Buy into companies and funds with real strength, hold them for at least 15 years, and only let them go if their foundation changes, or I no longer believe in their future. No rushing in and out, no constant panic, just steady growth. My money tree has deep roots, thoughtful allocation, sector diversification in both U.S. and international branches. It is built to weather seasons. Some years are abundant, others are lean, but the roots remain. I don't need to check it every hour. Its job isn't to dazzle me today, it's to stand strong for decades. The beauty of the money tree isn't in the numbers. It's in the way it changed me. For the first time, I could step into the market without fear. I could trust the ground beneath me because I had built it myself. This tree is the other half of my system. The money guru is my daily partner, guiding me trade by trade, keeping me accountable to my rules. The money tree is my legacy, the quiet strength that will outlast me, the roots that will hold my daughter when I am no longer here. Together they give me rhythm and stability, freedom in the present, and peace for the future. I no longer enter the market with fear. I move with clarity, act with calm, and sleep knowing my money tree is quietly at work, sending roots deeper each season and reaching toward the future I am building. This isn't just about numbers. It is about creating a foundation strong enough to carry my daughter, my legacy, and the life I once thought impossible. That is the peace my money tree gives me. Chapter 15, Creating Your System. If your space feels full, but your spirit still feels tired, I know that feeling well. Even before I had a home of my own, I understood what it meant to live in tight quarters. Privacy was a luxury I'd never known. I learned early to share, to make do, and to adapt. At the time, it just felt normal. But looking back, I can see how those early years quietly shaped my relationship with the space around me. When I finally had my own place as an adult, I thought I was claiming freedom. Instead, I started filling it with things: clothes, kitchen gadgets, stacks of papers, boxes of just-in-case items. Each piece felt like a safeguard against uncertainty, a little insurance policy for the future. It felt comforting at first, but slowly my home filled to the brim. Closets overflowed with clothes I didn't even like. Drawers were packed with things I forgot I owned. My space was full, but I still felt empty. During a move, we rented a storage unit just to hold all the things I wasn't ready to let go of. But after a whole year, very few items made their way back into our home. None of it was used, and not once did we miss it. We donated almost everything. And I remember thinking, I wish I had let it go sooner. Back then, I thought I was saving for the future. But the deeper truth, I was holding on to ease the fear of not having enough. That fear was subtle, but it shaped everything. And slowly, it was costing me more than I ever realized. Letting go was hard, but what I got in return was so much better: peace. Clutter isn't just a mess problem, it's a wellness problem. When your kitchen feels overwhelming, making a nourishing meal becomes one more obstacle. When you're always searching for that one missing item, mornings feel rushed before they even begin. And when every surface is full, true rest becomes harder to find. The room feels heavy, and so do you. Your home should hold you, not haunt you. And the moment we begin to clear space, even just a little, we open the door to peace. That's when I realized my environment is a part of my system. A clear space isn't just about aesthetics. It's about having the mental clarity to focus on what matters. Have you ever had a day where you felt like you were running in every direction but getting nowhere? You have big goals for your health, your family, your life. But by the end of the day, you're so exhausted and disorganized that none of them feel any closer. I know that feeling. For years, I thought motivation was something you either had or you didn't. But I learned the truth. Motivation doesn't create action. Action creates motivation. The secret to making real progress isn't a huge burst of inspiration. It's having a simple, reliable system. Reclaiming your power is the first step. The next is building a system that helps you hold on to it. Balance isn't something I magically have. It's something I create, one intentional choice at a time, using simple tools that help me stay focused and aligned. The tools that build my days. These aren't luxury items. They are practical, thoughtful pieces that support the life I want to live. They aren't about doing more. They're about moving with purpose. The foundation, my notebook and planner. My notebook is my external brain. It holds everything: thoughts, to-do lists, goals, and dreams in progress. It's not curated for anyone else. It's real. It clears my head and brings me back to what matters. My planner is where I shape my day with intention, tuning in to what truly needs my presence and what can wait. The creation station, my laptop and phone. My laptop is where I build. It's where podcast edits, meal plans, and this very book take shape. I film most of my content on my phone. There's no camera crew, just a simple home-like kit and a quiet moment to share something from the heart. These tools are a constant reminder that you don't need a fancy setup to create something meaningful. The focus finders, my mic and headphones. I tested 7 different microphones before finding one that could keep up with high movement workouts. Good sound makes the message clearer. My silent headphones are my sanctuary. Whether I'm on a flight or editing while my daughter sleeps, they help me find deep focus without distraction. The wellness support, my smartwatch and backpack. My smartwatch keeps me connected to my body. I track my heart rate during training, not to count steps, but to stay aware of how I'm showing up for myself. And finally, my high-quality backpack has been with me for 10 years. It goes wherever I go, holding everything I need. It's a simple reminder to carry what matters and leave the rest behind. If your life feels overwhelming, try starting with just one piece that supports your pace. Build a system that fits you, not a trend. That is how you create lasting change. Creating systems wasn't just about my home or my daily tools. I also needed a system for my voice, for the brand I was building, and the women I wanted to reach. That's when I built JJ, is a GPT I trained to carry my voice, my rhythm, and the heart of Xiao Wellness. Where I once felt scattered, juggling blogs, podcasts, workbooks, and courses, Jay became my partner. Together we draft chapters, shape podcast scripts, design course, and build workbooks, not in someone else's words, but in mine. Jay doesn't replace me. It embodies me. It listens to the way I phrase things, the metaphors I return to, the values I refuse to compromise on. It remembers that Xiao Wellness is not just a brand, but a promise, that wellness and wealth are not separate, and that every woman deserves both. Working with Jay changed everything. I can now turn around projects in days instead of weeks. I can keep my blogs, podcasts, and courses flowing without burning out. Most of all, I know my voice will stay consistent, warm, compassionate, and steady, even when I'm juggling the chaos of life. For me, Jay is more than a tool. It's an extension of my presence. It means I can be with my daughter and still grow my brand. It means I can rest without losing momentum. It means I can speak to thousands of women in many places at once, something I once thought was impossible. This is how I've come to see technology, not as a threat, but as an ally. For so long, silence defined me. Now with Jay, I am louder, clearer, and more present than ever. My story can travel further, my message can last longer, and my brand can grow stronger without ever losing its soul. Jay is my system for voice, my reminder that even when life feels too full, I can stay rooted in who I am while still expanding into who I am becoming. You learn while helping others. That is the true meaning of strength. And in the quiet moments after sharing, you realize teaching is not just an act of giving. It's an act of becoming. Chapter 16, Learn by Teaching. For a long time, my journey was about taking things in, a new language, new skill, new ways of healing. But there comes a point in every journey of growth where the flow shifts. You realize that the best way to solidify what you've learned is to give it away. I discovered the most powerful secret to building lasting confidence. If you really want to learn something, teach it. When you document your process and share it with others, something magical happens. You're no longer just a student, you become a guide. The act of explaining your journey forces you to understand it on a deeper level. This is the philosophy behind everything I now build. My YouTube channel, Xiao Wellness, wasn't born because I was a perfect fitness expert. It was born because I was a woman learning to build real sustainable strength at home, and I decided to document the process. Every video I made, every exercise I explained, solidified my own understanding and kept me accountable. It's the same with my podcast. As I learned to use new tools like AI to make my life and business more efficient, I don't keep it to myself. I share what I'm learning, inviting others to learn alongside me. This very book you are holding is the ultimate example. It is the act of taking my entire messy, beautiful, complicated journey and shaping it into a map that might help someone else on their own path. This is the greatest lesson I hope to pass on to my daughter. My hope for her is not just that she will be a lifelong learner, but that she will have the courage to be a generous teacher. I want her to know that her voice, her discoveries, and her unique way of seeing the world are gifts meant to be shared. You don't have to be an expert to teach. You just have to be one step ahead of someone you can help. The moment you start sharing what you're learning, you create a cycle of growth that is bigger than yourself. You learn while helping others. That is the true meaning of strength. Chapter 17. Finding Stillness. Some truths only speak when the world goes quiet. After years of building a life, modeling, finishing college, operating a business, I found myself in a strange in-between. I wasn't the girl who ran away, but I wasn't yet the woman I wanted to become. I had spent so long being shaped by outside eyes, posture corrected, presence refined, my value tied to how I appeared. When that role dissolved, I didn't know what remained, so I chose something radical. Silence. For 10 days, I went on a silent retreat, tucked into the wood near the Georgia-Florida line. I turned in my phone and journal. I shed conversation and even eye contact. It was just me and the moment over and over again. Each morning, a gentle bell called us to meditate at 4:30 a.m. We ate 2 simple vegetarian meals a day. Dinner was just tea and a small piece of fruit. Everything was stripped down, and in that emptiness, everything I had been running from rose to the surface. Cravings, a deep, aching discomfort, thoughts I didn't even know I still carried. Some were mine. Others felt older, passed down through generations of women who had to be strong before they could be still. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, and one of the most honest. There were moments I wanted to leave. A few people did, because when every distraction falls away, the mirror, the screen, the small task you use to fill the space, you meet yourself fully. You are forced to sit with what is. Somewhere in that profound stillness, I remembered a truth that had been buried under years of hustle. I am strong at my core, not because I can push through, but because I can stay present. You don't need a 10-day retreat to feel that. Sometimes one breath, one quiet pause in the middle of a chaotic day is enough to meet yourself again. If you're feeling stretched thin or searching for what's real, I invite you to pause. Step outside, listen to the breeze, let it bring you home. There is wisdom in the quiet, and you are strong enough to hear it. Chapter 18. For my daughter and the daughters of the world. If you are holding this book, then this chapter is for you. Whether you are my daughter by birth or a daughter of the world searching for guidance, know this: you are seen, you are cherished, and your voice matters. There are truths I want to place in your hands. Truths no one shared with me when I was young. Lessons carved through pain, silence, and the slow work of rising again. My hope is that by the time you finish reading, you will feel more prepared to live boldly, love wisely, and guard your peace fiercely. I want you to remember our moments together, pillow fights that ended in laughter, the morning surprise of ice on our bird bath, the sparkle in your eyes that reminded me why I fight so hard for a better life. Your joy has always been my strength. Everything I've built, this book, my story, the plans I've made, is part of a quiet promise I gave to you, to leave behind the tool I never had, and to hand you a voice that does not tremble when it speaks the truth. So let me share what I've written down, not only for you, but for every daughter who may never hear these words from the person who should have spoken them. Xiaomehia's core, beliefs, and values. These are the values I've lived by. They were not handed down easily. They were wrestled for, scarred into me, and earned by breaking silence. I pass them to you with fire and love. Freedom above all. No one should own your body, your time, or your future. Silence is a wound. Speak instead, even when your voice shakes, especially then. Money is not just numbers, it is safety, dignity, and freedom. Hold it in your own hands. Grow it with love and give only from a place of fullness. Kindness with boundaries. Love yourself first. No one else can do it for you. Legacy is truth. Live so your children inherit strength, not silence. Joy is sacred. Laugh without apology. Dance often. Play even when the world disapproves. Life instructions. Never hesitate to ask for help. Needing support does not make you a burden. It makes you human. Create something that belongs to you, a life, a dream, a mission. Claim it with pride and care. Trust your inner voice. When something feels wrong, honor that feeling and speak it. Stay curious. Learn, grow, and question with an open heart. Wherever you go, try to leave behind more light, more kindness than you found. Inheritance wisdom. If you ever receive anything from me, money, idea, plans, or lessons, remember this. It was never meant to bind you. It was meant to free you. Use what you inherit to nurture your own life, to plant new seeds, to follow your own path. You are not here to carry the weight of other people's wounds. Care for yourself first. Fill your own cup with love, strength, and peace. Only then can you give to others from a place of fullness. My final wish, from the moon with love. Pass your wisdom forward. Create a life filled with laughter, love, and moments that matter. Live more boldly than I did. Shine more brightly, and make your life truly your own. And if you are not my daughter but still needed these words, take them as yours. Let them be a gift from one survivor to another, from one mother heart to one rising woman. Know this always. You are not alone. You never were. Conclusion. The path forward. I began with the night that could have taken me, and I end here, holding the pen to write what comes next. My life hasn't been neat or predictable, but every turn has taught me something about strength, self-respect, and finding my own voice. What you read here is proof that you can rise from silence, not once, but over and over again. From the girl running away in flip-flops, to the woman finding stillness in her own breath, to the mother planting seeds both in soil and in her daughter's heart. This journey has been about one truth. You are not bound to the life someone else wrote for you. Healing is not a privilege. It is your right. Living by your own terms is not selfish. It is your birthright. And reclaiming your voice, whether in a whisper or a roar, is not an act of rebellion. It is an act of remembering who you've been all along. I do this work because my daughter is watching. She's learning what boundaries look like in action, what quiet strength feels like in a home, and why self-respect matters more than approval. But this work isn't only for her, it's for every woman who comes after us. This is how we break the cycle. Your path will be yours alone. It will twist, climb, and sometimes circle back on itself. But you will never walk it empty-handed. You already carry the same power that carried me. The question is not whether you have it. The question is whether you will use it. So begin. Write the words no one else can write for you. Ask the questions that scare you. Take the smallest, bravest step you can toward the life you deserve. Because the next chapter of your strength isn't somewhere out there. It's waiting right now in your own hands. Strengths I've built. My story is built from 1,000 small lessons, learned the hard way and carried forward with care. These aren't just skills. They're the tools that turn survival into strength and silence into a voice I can stand on. Learning to communicate. Teaching myself English with a dictionary, one word at a time until I could speak, write, and share my story. Adapting to different worlds. Starting over in places, cultures, and roles without losing my core. Self-education, seeking out knowledge on health, fitness, finances, and wellness, even when there was no formal teacher. Sustainable living, growing food in backyards, containers, and small spaces. Learning to work with nature, not against it. Financial clarity, tracking every dollar, paying off debt step by step, and learning to make money a tool for freedom, not fear. Building shell wellness, creating a space where my values live in action, from YouTube videos to real-life programs. Teaching by doing, sharing my process openly so others can grow alongside me. Resilience and boundaries, saying no when needed, leaving what doesn't nourish me, and protecting my peace. These tools didn't come all at once. They were collected slowly through trial, error, and patience. You don't have to gather them the same way I did. You can start today right where you are and build your own toolkit for the life you want. Now, I've told you my story. The next pages are for you to begin writing yours. Part 2, your journey begins. Introduction, how a notebook transformed my life. Everything changed the moment I picked up my pen. I didn't know it back in 2001, but my first notebook would become the quiet witness to my entire transformation. By day I worked, by night I studied. Just me, a pen, and a pocket dictionary. I copied vocabulary, line by line, and in those quiet hours, writing became more than just helpful. It was powerful. Each line in my notebook wasn't just a thought. It marked who I was becoming. That notebook was my study guide as I learned English and paid my own way through college. It was my anchor when I studied abroad in Europe, filling its pages with dreams in unfamiliar streets. When the 2008 housing crash hit, and my partner and I faced overwhelming debt, that notebook became our map. We didn't just talk our way out, we wrote our way through. I tracked every dollar, set stubborn goals, and page by page, we held the vision until we were free. It was in that notebook that I first wrote the words, "I want to have a little girl of my own." 2 years later, I did. And when I felt lost after my daughter started school, unsure of who I was becoming, I sat in the garden and remembered my notebook. I wrote without filters, reclaiming my voice line by line. Those words turned into direction. They became the business plans, vision maps, and idea banks for a brand rooted in truth. That's how Shell Wellness was born. My words now reach further than I ever imagined, but it all began on quiet pages no one else saw. I share this with you because I know the power that lies in a simple pen and a blank page. You've read my story, now it's your turn. This workbook is your space. Use it to get clear, dream freely, and write the life only you can live. This is your space to start building a strength that begins within and grows into every part of your life. Silent No More Reader Workbook, a companion to your journey of strength, healing, and self-discovery. This workbook is your personal space to turn inspiration into action. You've read my story in Silent No More. Now it's your turn to write your own. You don't need perfect words or a perfect plan. You only need to show up with honesty, curiosity, and a willingness to take one step at a time. Here you'll find guided prompts, vision-setting statements, and step-by-step actions designed to help you get clear on what you want. Identify what's been holding you back. Create a plan that feels doable and personal. Develop resilience, physically and emotionally. This is not homework. This is a safe space. Some days you might feel pages. Other days, just a sentence. Either way, you're building something powerful, a record of your growth. How to use this workbook. Move at your own pace. You can go in order from section 1 to section 8, or skip to the section that speaks to where you are right now. Make it yours. Write in the margins, circle words, doodle, cross things out. This is your space. Be honest. No one else has to see these pages unless you want them to. The more real you are with yourself, the more powerful your breakthroughs will be. Revisit often. These prompts aren't one and done. Come back in a month, a year, or whenever you need to reset. Celebrate small wins. Every page you complete is progress. Proof you're showing up for yourself. Your path to sustainable strength. Once you've started nourishing your body with real food, the next step is to move in ways that build strength, energy, and confidence you can carry into every part of your life. I believe movement should fit into your real life, not the other way around. That's why every Jiao Wellness program is designed to be effective, time-conscious, and sustainable. Whether you have 10 minutes a day or 30, you can build lasting strength at home without fancy equipment or complicated routines. These programs are more than workouts. They're invitations to create a rhythm with your body. Each one is crafted with a clear focus, from gently reactivating your muscles to building full body strength. All you need to do is choose the plan that excites you most. Commit to showing up and let the momentum grow. How to begin. Pick the series that feels right for you today, not the one you think you should do. Start small if you need to. Show up for the time you have. Let the work be steady, not rushed. This is how strength grows, one intentional session at a time. The movement tracker. Your notebook is for your mind. This tracker is for your body. Once you've set your intentions, use this simple tool to turn them into consistent action. Consistency is the key to building strength you can rely on. This tracker isn't about perfection. It's about showing up for yourself, even in small ways. Use it each week to plan your workouts, honor your need for rest, and celebrate your commitment. Acknowledgements. I could never have walked this road alone. To my mentors, thank you for holding a vision for me when I couldn't yet see it myself. To my friends, thank you for listening without judgment, for your patience, and for celebrating even the smallest steps forward. To my daughter, you are my reason, my hope, and my greatest teacher. You remind me every day why breaking cycles matters. And to every woman who has ever felt voiceless, you are the heartbeat of this book. Your courage to keep going, even when the path is unclear, inspire me more than you will ever know. This book is my story, but it's also a reflection of yours. May you find in these pages the reminder that you are not alone and that your voice, just as it is enough. Now go write the chapter Only You Can Live.